Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew, and tonight I'd like to welcome back to the show Terral BlackStar. Terral, how you doing tonight?
Doing very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks again for joining us. There's a lot going on. A lot since we last talked. But before we get into that, it's been a while since we talked. Why don't you give everybody a little bit about your background and what brought you to your current research?
Okay, very good. Start right here at the website. My life before 9/11 was all about scripture. And this is the scripture section, 6 introductory videos, and you can get your hands on my book, The Mystery Explained. This is a link to how the mystery diagrams work. This was going to be my life work. I never intended to do anything else. I'm from a family of ministers. Then that book was written in 2005. It was just published recently, and your subscribers can and your viewers, you can go right here to the website, and you can make if you want to get a book from me, an autographed copy from me, then you can make a donation of $75 or more. You go to Amazon.com and get it for like half that price if you go to the used book section. Okay, then once this part was written, I understood the truth about the 3 witnesses, spirit, blood, and water, sharing that with people. Then my heart was burdened with the 9/11 inside job. That affected everybody on the planet. And so 5 years after that event, then I began the investigation that took 5 years and wrote the book, Exposing the Cheney Rumsfeld Black Operation. Your people can download a PDF version of that right here. Chapter 11 is a 100-point timeline. There's a timeline in this book. There's timeline in all these sections. I'm obsessed with timelines and timing, and some of the events in 9/11, the top 100, they're hundreds of seconds apart. This is it was read by Jim Mars, recently deceased, who did FBI and others, and they say it's the best that they've ever seen, the best work and investigative report on 9/11 that they've ever seen. Then when that was done, then the Ellenin Comet was discovered, and after keywording 9/11, the Ellenin was the guy that discovered the Ellenin Comet. Leonid Ellenin, his name backwards was 9/11. Perihelion date for the Ellenin Comet was 2011, exactly 10 years of the day after the 9/11 attacks. So I used my keyword and analyzing skills to figure out, well, that was part of it, scripture. Keywording scripture allowed me to see where the words appear, where they do not appear, patterns that are within the text. Same thing with the 9/11 Commission report, the Arlington County After Action Report, the FAA timelines, and their documentation. Keyworded all those documentations, found many inconsistencies, places where the government's obviously lying in the contradictions there. And then began the keywording process through the documentation coming through the Ellenin Comet investigation. And if people Google March 1st, 2011, you'll see the Russians were monitoring the stagger stepping that the comet was making coming in. I was doing the same thing, and then it took me a while to realize that the Ellenin Comet was a psyop. The whole thing was a psyop, part of a desensitizing op. The same thing for ISON 2012, and a lot of these other stories. So this is the current investigation right here, and so doing these other investigations in 2011, January. And we discovered, among other things, the 188-day cycle was real. If you go down here to this timeline, the 188-day cycle was in play for all these quake events. And all of these quake events right here. And these, you find some late ones back here, and now you're finding earlier events happening early, and it's going to be because of Jupiter's influence. Jupiter right now is just about in the same position relative to the Black Star in the Libra constellation to the sun. So the Black Star is going to be right about here. Jupiter moves 30 degrees left in the orbit diagram. Last year it was here. The year before that it was here. So Jupiter's been having more and more of an influence, causing these near-side alignment events to come to come early. That's why the Hawaii event came early. And so
that's real. Before you get into that,
that's what led me here.
Okay.
And, that's what led me here. And this is the section right now. This has a book This has a book that's been published. This has the book that's written, yet to be published. And the information here is shared in the weekly newsletters that come out. And that's what I am showing you right here. Seismic data, monitoring patterns, and things like that. So that's what brought me the investigation. That's where I'm at right now, is making BlackStar update reports every Thursday, doing the research all week, and watching the patterns and giving forecasts and things like that. And we also have the newsletter program is only $25 per year, and we have a survival group program, more than 260 members in the USA survival group program. And once your viewers start waking up, that's what they're going to want to do. That's what makes us unique from the others that are doing these kind of investigations, that we have information-based newsletter program, and we have a survival program that's in place. Multiple options here in the United States, options all over the world. You can find out all about that lower in the newsletter. This is a little mini radio section. This is where this interview is going to go. And this is one of our, see right here, this is the one from April the 24th, last time that we had an interview. And a lot of change has changed since then. And that's what I'm anxious to share with you right now, or whenever you're ready.
Oh, yes. And before we get into that, tell us about what was the exact link that got you started on Planet X or whatever this is. And then briefly tell us exactly, is this a brown dwarf or is this something else? Is this a rogue planet?
Okay.
Just go ahead and start with that.
Well, what got me into it was the Allen and Common and the keywording. And then I did a series of radio shows with Jim Mars, and he sent me the Dakota report. Have that pulled up for you guys too. Right here, the Dakota report, very important document. Of course, it's said to be debunked, but this is put out by the lettered agency operatives, intelligence, and then the counterintelligence boys. They're the ones that come back and do the debunking. But when you get down to the bottom, you're going to get to the operations section that mentions Project BlackStar. So it was Jim Mars that turned me on to the reality that my heavy mass object was really a black star. And it's through the Dakota report that I made the connection between the genocide that's coming. Genocide because the elite know. Trump knows. They all know. And they're playing this game until they run to the underground ark cities, just like in the 2012 movie where they're running to the ark ships. Very similar scenario that's taking place there. And when you get down into the bottom of this report and read the operations section, and you'll see what I mean. So he got this to me in 2012, and then we discovered the seismic pattern, and we've been following it ever since. So right up to the recent Hawaii event that took place when we passed between the two stars that I'm about to be reporting to you guys about.
Very good.
Okay, then you asked if we're dealing with a brown dwarf star. We're not.
Yes.
We are not dealing with a brown dwarf star. We are definitely not dealing with a brown dwarf star. The type of star that's being characterized as the Planet X, which is the brown dwarf, a lot of people are on that storyline. It's a false narrative. The dwarf family, they are transitional bodies, transitional dwarfs. They begin as white dwarfs, they transition to brownies, then and when the solar system is older, 5, 6, 7 billion years old, ours isn't old enough yet, then the brown dwarf star, it evolves into a black dwarf star. That's not what we're dealing with here for sure. These form on the periphery of solar systems, and they make very deep gravity wells. The subatomic particles on the inside, that releases photons, cluster around that, and then the neutron cluster around that, and then the proton cluster around that. The white dwarf stars have an outer shell of protons. The reason for that is because of the way that the material drops down into the gravity well, and the smallest particles go the fastest. So there's less resistance to the smaller particles, like neutrinos, for example. They just pass right through the Earth. They don't touch anything because the subatomic particles and molecules are so far apart. So these subatomic particles race down to the bottom of the gravity well, gets deeper and deeper, and then the electrons follow, neutrons follow. The protons are the biggest, so they bang into one another, and they have reduced velocity as the star is forming. And so that's one reason that the protons are on the outside. So for this to be a brown dwarf, then the first brown dwarf was discovered in 1995 using infrared technologies, and we'd be able to see it. We have professional astronomers on this case, and they have access to telescopes, their own telescopes, observatory class telescopes, infrared accessories. We've known the position for years, and we also know that we cannot see it. This is not a brown dwarf star. We would be able to see it. And we are making an attempt this year to identify micro-lensing, gravitational lensing effect, that's from the dancing stars in the background. That campaign's going right now. We have to gather a lot of images and stack them, make a mini movie, and then we're going to see if we can see the ghost. What we are dealing with is the invisible collapsed binary twin to our sun. So it was much larger than our sun. It imploded a long time ago. And some of these objects, this object that was just recently seen moving through Jupiter, for example, it was moving way, way, way too fast. And our project astronomer looked at it and he said, that's extra solar system. It came from somewhere else. It could be beyond our galaxy. But for me, it made more sense that it was a body connected to this other binary system, our other sun. Okay, so we're dealing with the visible collapsed binary twin to our sun, and my method is not actually tracking the star. What we're doing is the realization after all these years, what we're really tracking is the gravitational / electromagnetic / magnetic vortex that is created by the black star and the planets, Jupiter, Saturn. The planets, solar system harmonics is playing a role there. Just kind of imagine that our solar system is like a molecule, the sun being the nucleus, and this object's coming in, and the planets, they have these magnetic portal connections. They have these, whenever they come into alignment, then they exchange electromagnetism, and that's where the Earth gets jolted. And so that's the reason for the early and late is because of the larger planets in their positioning. So it's taken us a while to be able to figure that out. So what we're dealing with is a binary star. Let me pull up one of these web pages and show you. And they have a unique relationship right here. Canadian student discovered this. Mysterious, massive magnetic stars are a unique find. What they discovered was, now these are two main sequence stars. It's not exactly like our situation, but what they found is that the smaller star slowed down as it was reaching perihelion. This means that their magnetic fields may even act as a giant brake, slowing down the stars. This binary twin to our sun has a magnetic repulsion relationship with our sun, which is causing it to slow down as it's getting closer to the sun. That's what makes this thing mysterious. And that's the reason, when we get back over here to the website, the black star, its aphelion position when it's furthest from the sun is in Gemini. And it's going to reach perihelion near Venus orbit path between the sun and Sagittarius. It's moving in this direction. You see 12-degree differential lines here because the black star was slowing down as it was coming in, and it's transitioning from an elliptical orbit to a circular orbit. And it's going to make the circular orbit, and then it's going to reach perihelion near Venus orbit path, and it's going to cross at the May 20 position. So there's a 1.6 million mile segment of space that Earth travels each day, and it's going to cross Earth orbit path at the position where Earth is traveling on May the 20th. So we've already determined that. What I've been waiting for is the nearest time and wake events get May 20th. Problem is the black star is still slowing down, and Jupiter's playing a role here. So the 6.9 Hawaii quakes right here. Before that, Philippines last year came on April the 28th. The Vanuatu from the year before came on the same exact day of the 28th. Even though the black star is moving left in the orbit diagram, the gravitational vortex was shifted backwards because of Jupiter. So it took us a while to be able to figure that out. We're dealing with the collapsed binary twin to our sun. It came in the days of Noah, came in the days of Moses. It's going to come again at the end of the age. It's going to create the earth changes that Christ talks about in Matthew 24. And it's also, now that happens on the next black star orbit cycle, what Christ is talking about. That's what the prophets can see. They can't see this coming. The only prophet of the Bible that sees this coming is Paul. He says the destruction is going to come suddenly, like the birth pangs upon a woman with child. And here's the reason why. That May 20th position is right here. It came from this way. It's going to cross and it's going to come between us to Venus orbit path. Now, when Earth is in the same position, let me pull Earth back over here. You see the May 20 at the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay, so when Earth is in this position, when it comes through, it's just a little bit in the southern hemisphere, then Earth gets tipped over. And I can show you how that works using this globe. The black star gets close enough, and it's going to cause the Earth to turn, to be repelled. The same way that it's being repelled by the sun as it's coming in, it's going to repel the magnetic north pole of our planet and cause a geological pole shift. So if you go to poleshiftning.com, you'll see that this has happened before. Doesn't happen on every orbit cycle.
Now you said May 2019?
That's the projection. Let me get back over here to the newsletter. No, let me get back over to the website right here. That's the, you see, you have 5/20/2019 and 5/20/2020 because we do not know. The black star has slowed to such a point that it was trailing Saturn. It was moving maybe 12 degrees left in the orbit diagram, moving this way. It was trailing Saturn, but then it began losing ground to Saturn. And so it's slowed down to maybe 3 to 4 degrees. We don't know if it's going to continue slowing down or what we have to prepare for every single May.
Now, these large quakes are indicators to you, like the two that we just had in Indonesia. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Look at if you brought this all the way back to Gemini 2004, you'll see that the 2004 event, Sumatra, that big 9.3 Sumatra quake, it had a Earth axis shift connected to it. And it would be an event on the Black Star event timeline too if I ran it back that far. So yeah, Fukushima's right here. And then we predicted that within 4 days. And then Guerrero the next year we predicted within 2 days. We've been making these predictions as we go along, but my predictive modeling began breaking down right through here because they were coming too early. Looks like Jupiter's influence, but also because it's slowing inbound orbital velocity. It's slowing down. So we have to prepare for May of 2019, and we have to prepare for May 2020 and every May. So if you look at the current article in the newsletter, you'll see there are links there to the Russian. They have 50-something satellites up there. They say it's coming in 2020 or 2021. If they are tracking it, it has to be in the Libra constellation. And I have not been able to contact anybody from that group yet. I sent a lot of information to a lot of Russians. I haven't got back the type of information that I want. But yes, earthquakes and the seismic pattern is extremely important. Not just the earthquakes, but the lack of earthquakes.
Okay. The
lack of earthquakes. Here, right here, now Earth should have a 7 magnitude earthquake every 7. We should have 17 7 magnitude earthquakes per year. That's one every 21 and a quarter days. That's what we're supposed to have.
So we could be building pressure right now.
Last year, after the 7.9 Papua quake, I don't have the 2016. Let me pull that up for you real fast here. 2016, 2017. Should pop up right next to this one. Yeah, it is. Okay. Give you a little more background knowledge, a little background information. This B in my chart is a backside alignment. The backside alignment is where we have 2 7 magnitude earthquakes for the last 2 years. This one was called to the day on the 14th. The next one was called on the 19th to the day. So what you have is a cluster of 2, then you have a pause, and then you have 7. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 5 7 magnitude earthquakes in an 8-week period. This quake right here is a 7.9 Papua quake that happened right in the center of the origination zone. I'll show you more information on that in a second. This is a reset event right here. So Earth would go 24 weeks without having another 7. And if this barely made it. If this 7 didn't come through, we would have gone 36 weeks without a 7 until Mexico. These were predicted. The 7.1 Mexico, the 8.1 Mexico, and the 7.1 Mexico, both predicted. Uh-oh, I'm pulling up a page here that I didn't want to pull up. Okay. And I need to get back to the PDF. Pardon me. Okay, so look at this pattern. 5, 7 magnitude earthquakes following 2, and then come down and look at the next year. Backside alignment right here. Here's my 2 7 magnitude earthquakes at the backside alignment. New Caledonia came on the 19th. Then we have a longer pause. 30 days longer. 30 days longer because Jupiter's 30 degrees farther left in the orbit diagram. Then we have the same 5 magnitude earthquakes. Same series of 5 magnitude earthquakes. 2017. Have to open up the close 31 without wanting to, because that chart's going to lead you right down to this one. Just bear with me just a second. So from the bottom of this chart right here, then we're going to get to this chart, and we have a string. This is the same 5, 7 magnitude earthquakes. This is caused by deep magma plume wave action. This is a 7.5 Papua earthquake that struck in almost the identical location as the 7.9 from the previous cycle. So you have your 2, you have your 5, Papua ending, just like the previous cycle. Now, and I made this prediction way up here, we've got 21 weeks, which was 22 weeks as of last Saturday night. A continuing run of 7s. We barely missed it with the 6.9 that barely happened. Reminds me a lot of the event from that 7 magnitude earthquake. We could easily go 30 weeks, more than a half a year without a 7 magnitude earthquake. Also, we're supposed to have normally just over 5, 6 magnitude earthquakes every 2 weeks. It's 2.76 something that we average. And I watched the Suspicious Observer's video this morning where he was making these claims about the 4 magnitude earthquakes causing larger magnitude earthquakes. And that's going to be released in this newsletter this week, because I'm disproving a lot of what the traditional researchers are sharing. But instead of getting like a 3 and a 2, this was right. This is at the near side alignment. It's 3 and 2 here, but look what happens afterwards. We only had 4, 6 magnitude earthquakes in 9 weeks. That's not supposed to be happening. The reason you're seeing all these red letters is because this is way out of the norm. You go back through the seismic chart and you look at the 6 magnitude earthquakes right along this line, then you're going to see those 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and that's just not happening.
Right.
Here just recently. Now, this over here is the scary part. This 644, this is the 2.5 to 4 magnitude earthquakes, 2.5 to 4 magnitude earthquakes. The highest value before this year for the last 8 years was 500, what was it, 565. Almost 100 higher with Hawaii. Here's the Hawaii event right here. Hawaii, here's the event. 604, like a sub lull. But then look at this. 1 5 magnitude earthquake. No 6s, no 7s, no 8s, and only 1 5 magnitude earthquake on the entire planet from Saturday night at midnight to Saturday night at midnight. That is not supposed to happen. Here's what happened, and then I'm going to get into these numbers here. I'm going to get back over here to the web browser and show you what happened right here. Now, I believe that I shared this story with you before. This deep magma plume formation?
Yes.
Okay, live science, mysterious blobs in Earth mantle. Everybody's going to want to go and see if I can click on this and get it to enlarge. I'm running low on RAM. Let's see. I guess I'll copy it and open up a new window. because it's just not working. And I want to show you the big picture. Here we go. Now, this deep magma plume formation that's puzzled scientists is growing in Earth mantle transition zone. So I'm going to slow down just a second, give you to let you know what that is. 410 to 660 kilometers below the surface is the Earth mantle transition zone. On top of it is rock, below it is metal. This zone is glassy type in nature. It's something that's in between metal and rock for 410 to 660 kilometers. Now this is a magma plume formation that is not supposed to be here. This magma plume formation originated in Indonesia, Fiji, and it is expanded across the Pacific Ocean. And this is a 2015 image. This is over 3 years old. This image is way bigger. I mean, this formation is way bigger. Now, the primary blob pushed underneath Hawaii May of this year. Whenever the 6.9 earthquake happened on May the 4th, then there was a mantle plume connection made to this magma plume formation. So let's slow down just a second and let me show you what that is. Mantle plume. This is what formed the Hawaiian Islands. This is a hot spot. This mantle plume connection made connection to this magma plume formation and caused the entire formation to grow. It also made connection here at Galapagos, right here. See, this is pushed all the way underneath South America now. This area is spread all the way over into the Pacific Ocean already. And the terminal end of this formation is all the way up under Cascadia already. There's another arm that reaches around the other side that is converging with it. Not only that, this main body is pushing towards Cascadia. This is going towards Cascadia, this is going towards Cascadia, and this is going towards Cascadia. Now, whenever the Hawaii mantle plume connection was made, and then the Galapagos connection was made, and then I think that it's, I can show it to you in the newsletter. This one right here. Come down in my reports. These are the hot spots. Like Hawaii, here's Galapagos, not as big, but this one in Samoa, this Easter guy right here, these guys are likely already connected to that mantle plume formation, but Hawaii was the big story. Now, when Hawaii made connection, this is the important thing to realize. I hope more people can wrap their heads around what I'm trying to share right here. This is very, very important. When Hawaii made the connection here, when you look on top, this thing should get bigger. It's just not doing it. Then you see this green area, these red horns. These are horn formations that are on top. Now, previously, before Hawaii, the way that I was able to track the growth of this formation was by these horns, these rising horns that rise up. What causes them to rise up are the deep earthquake events down in Earth mantle transition zone. Here's an example of what I'm talking about right here. Fiji side, Earth mantle transition zone. You see this guy, 420, 634, 649. The deeper they are, the more magma, the deeper they are, the worse off they are. Because that's more magma that rises, and this magma plume formation is trying to find equilibrium. As we get struck, this sends energy along the corridor, buoyancy barrier corridor. As the energy races through, it raises these horns up, and that is what produces these 4 to 5 magnitude earthquakes at the 10-kilometer depth. 10-kilometer depth. See these at the 10-kilometer depth? We've had 2 quake swarms at Cascadia in the last 2 weeks because of the energy racing through here. But the thing that I'm trying to get you guys to wrap your head around is a mantle plume connection that was made right here and at Galapagos caused this entire formation to inflate. Now, when it inflated, it took about a month to do it. But when it did, all these horn formations rose up. So that way, whenever we got the deep earthquake events, the energy raced through and the horns were already raised. That's the reason that We come back up into the chart and we see this one right here. All the horns are raised, so the 5 magnitude earthquakes could not be registered. So it took a little while. So you see these record high numbers went from 824, 908, 1600, 2500, 2700. I'm supposed to be looking at values now. We're moving towards the 90-degree position in the solar system. We're supposed to be looking at 200. These are 10 times higher than they're supposed to be. 10 times higher than they're supposed to be. 5 magnitude earthquakes came up and up and up and up and up to 31. Now it's kind of leveled off over the last week. It appears that the magma plume formation itself is finding a new equilibrium, and we should see these numbers lower. The reason is because, see, we were over here in May, but now Earth is moving in this direction, 66,000 miles per hour, 1.6 million miles per day, which means the black star is still back here. The magnetic portal connection between the Earth and the black star is getting longer and longer right now. That's the reason that those values are really supposed to be going down. The fact that they haven't gone down as much as they should is worrying to me. Now, here's the deal. The black star is about here. The black star is about there. And we've been moving away from it all this time. But now in September, look at the dates down below. In September, we're going to pass right in front of the black star's headlights. And when we do, this magnetic portal connection is going to get shorter rapidly. And Earth is going to get jolted with electromagnetism right through here, added to the energy that we're now getting from Earth core in through the mantle plume connections into the enlarging deep magma plume formation. So this is going to be a big month in September. We may not have another 7 magnitude earthquake until September. And then we should have a cluster here. Everything's going to heat up. Pressure is going to be released. We're going to have a mini lull in October. And then on the backside of the sun, relative to the black star, it's going to be right around, I would say, November the 22nd. It's going to be no 20th, 22nd, 23rd. We're going to have a big old gigantic dose of electromagnetism to start that pattern of 7 magnitude earthquakes again, right through here. This used to be the biggest lull period of the entire cycle. Now this is the time that we're having 7s. And the reason is because of the deep magma plume formation that kicks everything loose through the lull period. Then there's nothing the pressures have to build up all the way around till we get to here again. This is the place we are in the solar system when the pressures are being released right now. And for those that are keeping score, Earth only had 6 7 magnitude earthquakes last year instead of 17. Earth's only had 5 this year, whenever we should have had more. So the higher magnitude earthquake values are lower than they should be. The lower magnitude earthquakes are way higher than they should be. And whenever you see these red values in the chart, and this is what I even said back in 2012, whenever there were no red values in the chart, the day is going to come when all of these letters turn red. And when all these letters turn red, the black star is going to be real close to being here. And that's what we're seeing here already, that's happening. So it's warning.
Well, we are in a period of high volcanic activity. So,
yes, we are. We've had 7 new, actually we had 8 new volcanic eruptions last week. For some reason they didn't count the Kamchatka new eruption from the 29th. And so I have an article up here telling me all about it, and then in the data it's not showing up. So we actually had 8 last week. We had 7 the week before that, 7 the week before that. We're supposed to be having 2 and 3 new volcanic eruptions at this part in the orbit cycle. That's what we've had every single year going back. Since this started, we've kept track of the new volcanic eruption events. Now we've had 21 in the last 3 weeks. That is not supposed to be happening. The reason that it's happening is because of the mantle plume connections and the displacement, magma displacement that's taking place because Earth transition zone is growing. The whole transition zone is growing because the magma plume is growing, and that's causing growth at the surface. So fissures are opening up everywhere. New mantle plumes are being discovered under Antarctica, under the Northeast United States, under Africa. They're being discovered everywhere because the way that this scenario plays out, more and more mantle plume connections are made to the deep magma plume formation until it grows and grows and grows until the buoyancy barriers break. When the buoyancy barriers break, that's the type of thing that happens with a Yellowstone eruption when glassy type material fills the sky, pyroclastic flows that kill animals all around the planet. Once they get caught in the jet stream and the winds, you cannot survive those dust clouds
Do you
because
see a Yellowstone eruption happening?
absolutely. But it's not going to be it's not a direct deal. It's going to be an indirect deal. It's going to be caused by the deep magma plume formation underneath that grows until the buoyancy barriers break. That magma is going to be released from the transition zone, then rise up and expand. There's very high pressures down in the earth. And as this stuff rises, it's going to expand and expand and continue expanding, and it's going to push against the crust. And then it's going to cause the whole area to rise until you get the breach. And then after the breach, the atmosphere is filled with poison and the entire region collapses. So if you look at the scallion maps of the future, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at continents that rise up and continents that fall, and the U.S. West Coast is among those that fall, and according to the scallion map of the future. And here's the bad part. I've been warning about May of every year, but this scenario that's happening under our feet, it doesn't have a month, it doesn't have a year. It just has, we have as much time until the buoyancy barriers break. And it's going to break somewhere, but it doesn't matter where it breaks because the earth is spinning and the jet stream is flowing. And when it gets caught in the jet stream and carried around and settles, that glassy type material is finer than baby powder. And when it hits your lungs, then it recrystallizes. So in 2 breaths, your bronchial tubes are covered with glassy material that hardens and then breaks with the next breath. That begins filling the lungs with blood, and then you suffocate. And you say, well, I'm going to get a gas mask. No gas mask is going to be able to save you from this. The particles are too fine. You breathe, the gas mask fills up, you start suffocating, you pull it off, you take your breaths, and you're done. That's why our survival group programs, 3 of the 4 are in the Ozarks, and they are in proximity to deep cavern locations, so we can go underground like the elite. That's part of the deal. So very disturbing, very, very disturbing. The lack of high magnitude earthquakes. The reason for the lack of high magnitude earthquakes is because the earth core is growing. That separates the tectonic plates. When you separate the tectonic plates, then the pressures can't build. But then areas like Cascadia that are locked, they have the ability to become unlocked. And that feeds the scenario for the Cascadia rising exercises, JDM-15 and all that. So they know it's coming. They're preparing the masses for it. They're preparing their sleepers for it. The people in the government that are not going to the underground arc cities, they will be deployed between us and the disaster that's happening everywhere. While the elite are running to the underground arc cities, that's the way that we see it playing out, likely the release of a contagion and other factors. But as far as the threat assessment goes, for members that are in the survival group program, there are no safe zones west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge. There are none east of the Mississippi River Basin. You have to be on the North American Craton, and you have to be near a cavern position. And that's why it's been my duty for all these years to first move to the Ozarks and live there, and then help direct other people to start survival group programs there, and then try to get as many people into the safe zone as humanly possible. Go ahead.
Now, I wanted to ask you, what should we expect? I mean, is this going to remain a gradual process for a few years and then all of a sudden we're going to experience a pole shift, or will this gradually keep increasing in intensity each year?
Are you still there? Oh, yeah, I lost you for a second.
Oh,
yeah.
I asked if this would be a gradual process, or we will have a pole shift all of a sudden.
Pole shift happens all of a sudden. And the thing to realize, there are multiple pole shifts, not just one. And when you connect that with Scripture, for those in your listening audience that are Scripture-minded, then that's exactly what Paul says. He says the destruction will come suddenly like the birth pangs upon a woman with child. And I am showing you the birth pangs right here. They're the earth changes. We can see it. There's a pattern to them. Then the destruction comes suddenly because the BlackStar, even though it's very small, it's likely only 2 to 3 kilometers across. It gets its magnetic polarity strength from the sun. So as it's getting closer to the sun, it's siphoning energy from the sun through a magnetic portal connection, and it's becoming mightier. So the sun, they say, is going into a modern minimum. It is not going into a modern minimum. It's not going to a grand minimum or any minimum. Its energy is being siphoned off by the black star and redirected to the planets through a secondary set of magnetic portal connections based upon proximity. So the closer the planet is, the more energy it gets.
Now,
So
is that why we're experiencing such heat right now?
absolutely. And there's disinformation out there about a mini ice age and all that. There is no mini ice age coming. Everything is going to reverse once the destruction takes place and the black star leaves the outer solar system. What is happening is the northern ice sheets were depleted originally because of black star redirected solar electromagnetism. So as the black star is getting closer, we not only have the energy coming from the sun, we have energy coming from the black star, making our planet bipolar. Not only that, we're getting double doses of electromagnetism, earth metals, translate that into heat through induction. Most of earth metals, salts, magnetite particularly, is focused in the northern hemisphere. So the northern ice sheets took the hit, and then whenever the polar drip was reduced, then the ocean conveyor broke. That started the polar vortex phenomenon in 2012. So the polar vortex phenomenon is that's the Earth maintaining equilibrium using air masses because it can no longer use the ocean conveyor. So the Earth is trying to send the cold air down, low pressure areas, and send the warm air north, high pressure areas, north of the jet stream. And the polar vortex phenomenon affects primarily those in the northern hemisphere in the extreme north, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, places like that. Down here in Florida where I'm at, it's been mild winters every year for a while now. And 2018 will be among the hottest years in recorded history. Even going through the spring when everybody was dying of cold, that's what we were saying. And it went straight from, if in the Northeast, from Washington, D.C. north, then it went from winter to summer almost instantly this year because the polar vortex phenomenon suddenly stops or it goes in another direction and we just get missed. So what I'm describing is the Earth changes that are taking place because of nearing black star proximity. That includes ocean conveyor breaking, jet stream fluctuations, and strange weather.
Yes, I have never seen such strange weather as we've been seeing lately. The amount of hailstorms is incredible, and the size of the hailstones as well.
And lightning.
Yes, lightning strikes.
We had to dedicate a section to lightning in the newsletter because so many people are getting killed by lightning, way more than it used to, than historically. And you'll see those pictures almost every week of the large hail that you're talking about, which is typically a springtime, summertime type thing, but everything is exaggerated. Everything's way, way, way bigger. And the dust storms, and you saw they had the hurricane forecast for higher and they lowered it. The reason that they lowered it is because of what's coming out of Africa. When you have those winds coming out of Africa sending the dust storms this way, then it shears over here in the little incubator spot where these big hurricanes form, then the area is so mixed up that it can't happen. And then even if it did, the prevailing winds are cutting the tops off the top. That's what's been happening over with the strange weather, and the reason that the hurricane season hasn't been as bad as it should be, because we still have record hot water at the equator because the ocean conveyor is broken. Besides Irma here in Florida, we've been pretty lucky. Go ahead.
Do you see the hurricane season getting any worse for this year?
There's no way to tell. Everything is crazy, but we could have none, and then we could have higher than average. There's really no way for us to forecast that.
Now, earlier you had mentioned the elites and how they know about this, and there's so much speculation on what they're doing with the chemtrails and what are they spraying and the reasons. And I know you've done some research into it, and I have a lot of subscribers that are also interested in what exactly they're doing with the chemtrails.
Okay. I do not have Windows pulled up for that. A really good guy to talk to is going to be, have you had Billy Hayes on before?
No, I have not.
He built more than 200 of the HARP facilities around the world, and he's the one informed. He's been keeping me up to date over the years. He taught me about what chemtrailing really is, and nanotechnologies, artificial intelligence, how everything is connected. The HARP, which if you're going to talk about chemtrailing, you have to talk about HARP. It went digital in 2013. Now it's space-based, satellite, but space-based. When they talked about taking the HARP system online, it was the Alaska-based analog system, the antiquated system. And they don't even want you to know about the space-based system, but it plays a very important role in maintaining a 1.5 to 1.8 hertz carrier wave around our planet 24 hours a day. And the reason for that is so that artificial intelligence can manipulate that carrier wave to multi-frequency, creating broadband channels so that it can communicate with the nanobots that are inside our bodies. The reason for that is you and I are having a radio show in a real world simulation that is happening in Denver right now, connected to the Denver airport. CIA, it's run by the Council on Foreign Relations, people working for the House of Rothschild for their underground Arc City program. Those are the people that do threat assessment and contingency planning for the House of Rothschild and the underground Arc City program. That's what chemtrailing is for. Although this is a rabbit hole that we're getting ready to go in. There are the larger agenda is the Georgia Guidestone's agenda, the reduction of the population of the planet, so that the maximum is 500 million, right? And pardon me. The BlackStar is what's going to bring the genocide, and then they're going to emerge from their underground arc cities. As far as the threat assessment, the chemtrailing, what's in it? Well, barium's in it, aluminum.
You said nanobots are in it. What are some of the purposes of those?
Okay, well, first of all, the barium is a contrast medium, like they use barium in your body.
Right.
But whenever they spray, then they have to know where it went. The barium is what allows them, is a tracking mechanism, a tracking component or element. Okay. Now, they do not spray nanobots onto you. It doesn't work that way. What they do is the chemicals that they use is filled with nano components. These components are what are sent through the air, and then you breathe them. When you breathe them in, they go into your lungs. And then once they're in your lungs, your body wants to get rid of them. So they accumulate. Then you cough them up, and then you swallow them. They know that's what's going to happen. When it gets down into your stomach and it hits the acid environment, then those components crystallize. And it's the crystals that grow to a predetermined diameter that then begin growing these appendages on the corners. So it's like a six-sided crystal that has on the corners is where the silicon-based filaments grow. So if you know people with Morgellons disease, you know people that are rejecting the silicone technology. It's like cancer for the silicone-based life forms. Uncontrolled replication. The nano materials inside of us, the silicone part is not supposed to replicate uncontrollably. That's cancer. But it does happen in a very small percentage of the population. So there is a connection right there. And we worked with the Carnicom Institute back in 2011 and people injured, killed. The reason that my 360 member research group was broken up was not because of the BlackStar. It was because of what we're talking about right now. They do not want you to know about the nanofilament replication inhibitor. These legs that grow on those crystals, they can be stopped. And you use it, the cure is sodium borate, the little teeny weeny boron element inside your body. Eats the legs off. It's a natural antifungal, 24 health benefits to using just 1 pinch of sodium borate in your drinking water 3 times a day. I've been doing that for quite some time to protect myself from the nanos and decalcification, the pineal gland. And 9.3 pH raises your blood pH. It causes the fungi in your body to go dormant. Likely over half of your listeners have candida condition right now. the death cycle has already started in them. So a little bit of that sodium borate also forces the fungi in your body to go dormant, which you cannot get rid of the fungi in your body. You can only cause it to go dormant. It's there. God put it there. It's supposed to be there. It's for whenever your body dies. It helps break down the body. Thing is, it's already activated in over half of the population in the United States. We're walking around and the bacteria is trying to build up our bodies and the fungi is trying to kill us. And not only that, the bacteria is giving us good, it's wired right into our neural network. It's giving us our appetites. It even, I mean, there's a lot of research that you can do on it. It determines the things we like and dislike, colors and everything else, bacteria. Fungi does the same thing. Fungi rewires your neural network and it causes a battle. Then you have a battle in your gut with fungi and bacteria, a battle in your inner ear with fungi and bacteria throughout your entire body. And like I said, more than half of the people that are listening to this are already infected. And if they're in third stage, there's 4 stages. Some people say there's 5 stages, 4 stages of candida. And if you're in the later stages, you're giving it to your children. You pass it through saliva, through spores. And there's a spit test everybody can take. It's very simple. And I don't need to tell you how to do it. Go online. There's videos on it. If you see those little peppery suspended particles, those are spores, candida spores. Okay, so like I said, this is a giant rabbit hole that we're in, but when you treat for these spores using sodium borate, you're also helping to rid your body from the nanomaterials. The reason that they continue to chemtrail is because the upgrades, they have to upgrade. Corresponding to this chemtrail project, a bunch of mad scientists are breaking the 5 nanometer barrier. Now, this is going to get too technical for a lot of your listeners, but they broke the 10 nanometer barrier. Nanometer is extremely small, and nobody could break the 10 nanometer barrier forever. And now they're breaking it one at a time. Their goal is to allow artificial intelligence to become and to assist in binary weapon warfare. So H1N1 comes out. Remember H1N1?
Yeah.
That was a triple recombinant biological weapon created in Fort Detrick. The only reason that that did not turn into a super strain and wipe out a high percentage of this population was because 2 amino acids were missing. They were pulled out. What they're trying to do, what the elite are trying to do is create this. They've already given everybody the H1N1. That's displaced the regular flu. That's the carrier wave or the herald wave for a biological weapon. The second half is the catalyst or the mutagen. And that is what they release later. And then with AI manipulating the nanos inside of you, then the elite can decide who lives and who dies. Who's going to contract the super strain and who's not going to. AI is going to be assisting from the inside using that HARP wave that I told you about. So this is their attempt to control everything. And chemtrailing is just one part of that. It's not to hide the black star or anything like that. The black star cannot be photographed. It's sitting in a very deep gravity well. Microlensing.
I was going to actually ask you about that, if it would be visible.
No. Oh, whenever the sun turns dark, then, because whenever the black star comes close enough, it's siphoning energy from the sun, but when it gets close enough, the sun is going to go out. If you look in Matthew 24, start at 29, go back to Joel 2, go to Revelation 6:12, they all say the same thing. The sun's going to turn dark. It's going to do that on the next orbit cycle too. It happens every orbit cycle when the black star gets right next to the sun. So at that time, it's possible that the black star is going to become visible. It's going to be between the Earth and the sun at that time. But here's the problem. If you're living in the northern hemisphere, the North Pole is going to be repelled, which means the Earth is going to continue rotating, but Earth is going to be tipped backwards. So the South Pole will be facing the sun and the black star for 3 days. It's going to be night in the northern hemisphere, not only because the sun's dark, but because we're facing away from the sun. But that is what protects us. That's part of what protects the northern hemisphere from the fluctuating magnetosphere, the near proximity of the black star, and the sun fluctuating the way that it's doing too. The southern hemisphere takes the biggest hit. The southern hemisphere faces the sun and it's daytime for 3 straight days. In places like Australia, Brazil, extreme shortage of cavern space, not enough room. So the prophecies about the 3 days of darkness are given to 3 civilizations, and they're all in the northern hemisphere. And I believe that's the reason why, because survival in the southern hemisphere is extremely difficult, going through multiple geological pole shifts. I don't know if I explained that well enough. The original pole shift takes place when the black star grabs magnetic polarity control from the sun, because the black star is so close to us, right? But then I could probably show you easier on this one right here. So when the black star comes close enough, it grabs magnetic polarity control from the sun and then tips us backwards. Now there's a lot of math in magnetic polarity strength ratios, sun and black star. There's proximities. There's a whole bunch of to take into account, but the black star tips us over like this, likely much slower, assuming magnetic polarity control from the sun. This could last for a day, but then the black star moves away. The Earth moves away. It's moving 66,000 miles per hour, so it moves away from black star influence, and then the sun grabs us and stands us back up in a matter of hours. So the second geological pole shift, the first one wipes out 90% of the planet. The second one, the waves are going to push way further inland than the first one. It's going to catch some of the people that are trying to flee the coast for the second one. Multiple geological pole shifts in places like Australia. If you see the safe zone map for the United States, a lot of the area on the North American craton is in the safe zone. There's a very few safe zones in the whole place of Australia. There's just a few outcroppings. Otherwise, this place is flat. Ocean waters. Thing is, the Earth is turning 1,000 miles per hour. The water is going 1,000 miles per hour. And when Earth starts tipping, the reason that it tips is because embedded Earth metals in the crust, magnetite, iron, that's what gets repelled. And then that concentration is highest in the northern hemisphere, so that's why the northern hemisphere is pushed away. So from the scenario I described to you, this side, the Earth spinning for 3 days, but this is what faces the sun for those 3 days. So going back to your original question, are we going to be able to see the black star? Not if we're looking the opposite direction and moving in the opposite direction. And then we stand up. The thing is, when we stand up, the sun's going to be turned back on again because the black star has moved away from its perihelion position. So yes, it's possible that it's going to be seen, but then remember that over 90% of the population of the world ain't going to be here. And there's going to be no internet. So who's going to see it? And if they did, who would they report it to? Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, that being said, you say 90% of the population will probably be lost.
That's right.
For the last few minutes, just tell us, what can we do to be prepared for what's to come? I mean, the best we can,
Mm-hmm.
So give us a little bit about that.
Okay. That's the kind of information you're going to receive whenever you become a newsletter / survival group subscriber. It's only $50 a year. You get a newsletter every week. You can write me with questions about all these things, and then your questions and my answers go into the newsletters. But if you're a member of the survival group program, you're going to get your threat assessment information. Then you're going to get introduced to the survival group, and then you're going to get a lot more help in that area. But basically, this is what we're talking about as far as what we can do. Number one, the deep magma plume formation is you can go away from the coast, geological pole shift, like right here on the North American craton. You're far away from the coast. You don't have to worry about that at all. But then whenever these pyroclastic flows get going, you have to be in a cavern position. So the very first thing you need to realize is, what is a real safe zone? There are no safe zones west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge. These dormant volcanoes, these calderas, Yellowstone, they're going to erupt, and then a giant hole is going to form right here, a giant inland sea, to put the fire out. But in the meantime, you can expect prevailing winds to push that flow all the way across Canada. And like I said, the last time Yellowstone erupted, it killed animals in Africa, in Europe. Okay, so you're going to want to, and on this side, you have 200 nuclear power plants. If you're up in this area right here, then you're downwind of at least 24 nuclear power plants. Fukushima in your backyard, the wind's going this way. You don't want to be downwind of that. You don't have anything to do with that. Also, the Mississippi River Basin is expected to liquefy so that a giant inland gulf, look at the Scallion maps of the future, is formed here about 150 miles from our safe zone location. We'll be about the width of Florida away from this liquefaction zone. So you want to be in this part of the United States, far enough south to try to avoid the pyroclastic flows. And we have one group along the Texas-New Mexico border too. And then you want to be near a cavern position, and you have to be a member of a large survival group. So digging a hole in the backyard, getting the family in there like you see in the movies, never going to work. So when you come out, if you come out, well, first problem is 200-degree sustained temperatures. When the magnetosphere begins to fluctuate, just imagine that our perspective is the sun, and the Earth is spinning this way. There's going to be a permanent line of tornadoes along this side and this side of the Earth on either side of the sun. The reason is because the daytime temperatures under the fluctuating magnetosphere are going to be above 200 degrees. The nighttime temperatures are going to be below freezing. The temperature differentials in the evening and in the morning are going to be violent, so that the air, the differential, like going through the center part of the United States, when you get those air masses that are really different temperature, gigantic storms, the heat is going to be so hot that volcanic, I keep saying volcanic, I mean tornadic, fiery, tornadic, like the pictures you're seeing over Hawaii. Long lines of them extending from each direction of Earth equator. So Earth is going to spin under them. They're going to be a permanent fixture for a period, maybe a week. So as you're in the morning and the evening, as you're going through the fiery part, you don't want to be outside. You have to have an underground position. Then in your survival group, then you're going to want to have members that represent a cross section of your society, doctors, and maybe we don't need the lawyers, but the doctors and the nurses, the caregivers, the military contingent. It's with our group, the primary group that I belong to, then we are building shooting ranges, obstacle courses, and then once we get more advanced, we're going to have a combination, the integrated courses for our military crew. So we're training together, we're working together, everybody takes part in the physical fitness, everybody takes part in the gun safety, because when the crap hits the fan, we're going to depend on each other for our survival, right? So it's very important that you develop the mindset of a prepper, of a survivalist, and maybe change habits, walking every day, like me, walk a mile a day, do my push-ups, and things like that, take my supplements, be healthy, and then work with other people in the survival group program, have your bug out bag, have your bug out location, know exactly what your plan is, have all your phone numbers, and then be connected to me as your threat assessment analyst. That's what I do for you. And then that's what you pay for. It's only $4 a month, but that's what I'm here for. And then to answer your questions, I'm going to turn you over to Rebecca, the leader of the primary group, or Chris, or Ken, or Linda. She runs the 4th survival group program. But there are programs in Australia. There are programs in New Zealand, Europe, Canada, Sweden, India. So it's not just for certain folks. They're everywhere in the world. If one of your listeners, the website, subscribe, and you give me some few details on the information on your location, and we'll see if you're in a safe zone. And if you're not, then I'll point you to one. So that's you're going to get in preparations, food purification, guns, ammo. Once you get everything you need, you're going to have small denomination silver for. That's why we keep up with the silver prices down here. $15.40, good time to buy. If you can get 5 Silver Eagles for under $100, and during the crash, it goes up to 200, then everybody's going to know it, and you're going to have a silver dollar that's worth a whole bunch that you paid probably $18 for right now. So that's part of my strategy, and you can even use silver to pay for. A few people have done that. They've actually paid for their This is for the survival group subscription. This is just a $25 newsletter subscription if you want that. Some people just get the newsletter subscription. It's just $2 a month. And then when they wake up, you just click this button here and you get your $25 upgrade. And that gives you this program, the $50 program. Now, it's just once per year. Some people think that it's $50 a month. No, it's $50 a year. So it's very, very inexpensive. And you can know what your options are by tomorrow morning if you go to the website and subscribe. Happy to help you with that, get you going in the right direction. And also, another thing that people can do is share your videos. You're going to give me a copy of this. I'm going to upload it, and then my subs can share videos. Share it with other people to help wake more people up. Wake more people up in your neighborhood, in your state, so that you can work together with them and shake a lot of hands. Survival group program for me, and I've been doing this a long time, it's about shaking a lot of hands and making a lot of friends before the catastrophe comes. Because then we support one another. Once the crap hits the fan, outsiders are going to be threats. There's no way that you say, well, I know where they are. And no, it doesn't work that way. Anybody coming in is going to be a threat. And we deliberately choose remote locations that are surrounded by creeks, that overrun in the winter, and chiggers, ticks, and all that stuff. Deliberately choose those spots. We learn to acclimate to the area while those trying to come and get us are not going to be acclimated. So that's kind of an overview on the survival strategy. Of course, it's much more complicated than that, but that's kind of an overview.
Right. Well, very good, Terrell. I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. I'm going to leave the link to your website in our description, and
Okay.
I'd love to have you back on again.
Okay.
It was awesome. Thank you again, Terrell. You're going to have a great night.
Thank you very much. You call me anytime, and I'm happy to come and share.
All right. Awesome. Well, good night, Terrell.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.